Welcome in.
Let's get to work.
The fastest growing sports spectacular. It's the Big E Sports Show. Your 1 hour comprehensive expose of all things in the sports universe. With a focus on some of the biggest sports icons on the planet. Now, here's your host, the one and only award-winning Elissa Walker Campbell.
Hey, Elissa Walker Campbell, I want to welcome you back to the Big E Sports Show. Many different ways to connect. We always love to hear from you on social media at eRadio Sports. You can email the show info@eradiosports.com. Of course, check us out. Multiple platforms online and stay connected with us always on social media. Well, the 2025 Kentucky Derby, it is here, and we are diving into everything from the top contenders and surprise stories to the trainers, track conditions, and racing history. Whether you are a diehard fan or just tuning in for the pageantry, we've got you covered. We're ready for some Derby Day conversation. Delighted to welcome in Peter Brown. He is a longtime media personality and a professional handicapper. Hello, Peter.
Hello, how are you doing? I mean, the Kentucky Derby is unique. It is the singular event of horse racing, and it's like no other event. It's no Super Bowl. It's no World Series. It's got its own history, its own drama, its own fashion. It's got everything.
Well, Peter, how many years have you been going to the Kentucky Derby?
I've gone 7 years in a row, and I have not been when the weather's been good. Although this year, we're expecting very, very pleasant weather. The track will be fast. I've been there when it's 102 degrees. I've been there when it's cold and rainy. Perfect conditions. And you don't normally see that. And with that, I expect we're going to see 150,000 people between the infield and Millionaires Row and other places. I could see them setting an attendance record this year.
Well, listen, Peter, you have covered every event known to mankind. I mean, what makes the Derby so special? I mean, you can hear the enthusiasm in your voice.
Well, there's so many different things to it. I mean, it's a class system where, the lower class or the lower middle class goes to the infield. They're too drunk to realize there's racing going on. They're there to party and to, hear the bands. Then there's the wannabe millionaires, the sort of sons of oil barons who go, they come from college, they come from the University of Kentucky and from Louisville. And they they know they want to be millionaires someday. They're going to inherit money, so they're fine. And then there's Millionaires Row, which is where there actually are millionaires, and that's where the celebrities are. The Peyton Mannings, the Brad Pitts. So there's different levels, and you can only get in your level. By the way, you can't go from the infield to Millionaires Row, and also almost millionaire to Millionaires Row. The only people that can move around are the media. So I've been through all three. And believe me, it's a culture shock when you go to all three.
Yeah, I bet. Hey, listen, Peter, when you scout a race to determine the outcome, I mean, how important are past results from the tracks outside of Churchill Downs? I mean, does it give you more credence to the horses who are familiar with Churchill?
It does. I mean, Churchill's in a unique place. It's the back stretch is tough. The stretch is the longest in horse racing. So when you hit the far turn and you hit the final stretch, you still got a long way to go. So you can't really use your horse like you do at other places. This is a unique race. First of all, there are 20 entrants.
Okay.
So trip becomes an issue. You don't want to get banged around. There have been some good horses that have lost the Kentucky Derby merely because they got banged around early and couldn't recover from that. There are also positioning, where you position your horse as you get to the first turn. It's different, let's say, than the Preakness. The Preakness is a short run to the first turn. The Derby is a longer one to the first turn. It's also the longest of these horses who are fairly young. I mean, they're noted as 3-year-olds because January 1st is essentially the birthday for every horse. But there are young 3-year-olds. There are 3-year-olds that were born early. So, 1.25 miles is a longer distance than they've all gone. So this is a unique race. It's almost better to have had a jockey that has participated in this race than necessarily having the horse run.
Yeah. So what's your early assessment of this year's Derby? Are there any clear favorites, or is it pretty wide open and just going to be an unpredictable year and weekend?
No, listen, there's a pretty clear-cut favorite. This is the 10th anniversary of American Pharaoh's win, on his way to the Triple Crown. And there's a horse that is being touted in a similar way, and that's journalism. Journalism right now is the favorite at 7-2. He's won 4 in a row. He won the Santa Anita Derby, in which he had trouble in the Santa Anita Derby. At about the quarter pole, he got boxed in a little bit and bounced around, and he still won. He's a big horse, and this is a horse that I think you're going to have to beat. I mean, I think that's the play of every horse player. You know, nobody wants to play the favorite. So that right there gives you options. You know, you want to get the 16-1s, the 15-1s, those type of horses. This horse is a stalker. He's a horse that lays off the front. He's got speed in front of him, so he can stay a couple of lengths behind and then turn it on. He's got a great kick. I'll be surprised if he loses. It's not improbable. I mean, there have been great horses that have lost, but there have been great horses that have won too. Horses like Fusaichi Pegasus, who went into the Derby as the clear favorite and was the best horse. There was no question about that. American Pharaoh also went in and went on to win the Triple Crown. That's how he's being touted. So somebody's going to have to make a run at him, or he's going to have some trouble in order for him to lose, I think. That doesn't mean you can't find guys that, there are a lot of deep stretch guys who come from behind. And especially, we've got 6 horses in this race that are speed horses, which will go to the front. That's great for a horse that likes to come behind, because the come from behind horse likes to pick off horses that are slowing down or coming back to the pack. So there are options here. In fact, very rarely in a race do you see 3 types of runners. You have speed horses, you have stalkers, and you have come from behind closers. We have that in this race, which is kind of unique in a way.
Well, are there any horses flying under the radar that could shock the world on Derby Day?
It's hard. There's a couple that are in that sort of second tier. I happen to like a horse named Tistastic. Joel Rosario is running. A horse that went on, and a Louisiana horse won the Louisiana Derby. He's a horse that can come from behind, but not that far behind. He was 9th in the Louisiana Derby and pulled away at the end. He doesn't have to be last, which I think if you're last in this race, I think you're going to have trouble passing the stalkers. There's always one horse that sort of the public sort of loves at the end, and I think that horse is going to be probably, I think Sandman is going to be the horse that sort of the public is going to love in the last 24 hours of this. I'm not a big fan. I think he can be beaten. But I also think there's another horse that is in that middle pack, sort of at the 12-1 kind of spot, and that's Burnham Square. Burnham Square is a horse that, I think can really be dangerous. Another horse that's not necessarily a closer per se, but can rally. Rallied from 7th in the Bluegrass at Keeneland and won. He won by a nose. He won the Holy Bull doing the same thing. So I think Burnham Square is a horse, again, in the 9th spot, right next to Journalism in the gate, that if he doesn't have any trouble and doesn't get bumped, I think he'll be fine. The reason why Journalism has such a good shot is, first of all, the 8th hole is a great hole. The 8th spot in the gate has won more than any other. 5 is also good. Plus, you want horses around you that aren't the same style as you are. So, for instance, in the 6th spot at Meyer Daytona is a speed horse. Now, right next to him is American Promise. You don't want guys running to the front, 6 guys rushing to the front. So if you're a stalker like Journalism or Burnham Square, you can let those guys fight it out and just move back and avoid some of the trouble.
So, Peter, talk some more about just how important the post position is in this year's race. Who benefited and or who could be hurt the most by the draw?
Well, it's a cluster. I mean, you're talking about 20 horses. In most events, or most Derby preps that these guys run in, is not 20 fields. I mean, 20 horse fields. You've got, for instance, Journalism in the Santa Anita Derby. There were 5 horses. Well, it's a lot different. Let's say you're in the 1 hole, okay, which is a tough spot to be in, and you're a speed horse, okay? You're sitting in the gate while they load the other 19 horses. So Citizen Bull, who's in the 1 spot, okay, has to wait probably about 5 or 10 minutes. And if you're a little nervous, which you should be if you're a young kid, it could be rough. I mean, it could be also, too, you're going to get squeezed when 20 tries to get to the front. Guess what? The other 19 are squeezing you. So that ain't good if you're a horse on the rail. So post position can be a big factor. You kind of want to be in the middle. You don't want to be in the auxiliary gate, which is 20 and 19. You don't want to be far outside because it's a long run just to get to the rail. So you've got to run longer distance than you would if you're in the middle. And if you're in the middle, you can see what's on the left of you, on the right of you. So if you're in that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spot, you're in a great spot. It's why journalism's trainer chose the 8 spot, because it's right in the middle. And that's why it's won more than any other position.
Hey, the countdown is on for the 2025 Kentucky Derby. We're getting you ready. Peter Brown, media personality, professional handicapper. Give us the pulse. What kind of weather, or what will the track conditions, what can we anticipate?
Well, it should be perfect. I mean, it has not rained in Louisville in the last couple of days.
Nice.
The horses have worked out in the morning on perfect conditions. So there's no bias. There's no, I have to get to the outside to avoid the rail, to avoid all the mud or all the water that drains to the inside. So, it's not too hot. Again, these horses can lather up a little bit. They get sweaty. It's nerve-wracking. I mean, look, it's like putting a 5-year-old in the NFL. I mean, imagine.
Yeah,
out,
sure.
Yeah, and again, 150,000 people. These horses have never seen this kind of amount of people. And I want to tell you something. The first time I went to the Kentucky Derby, I was in the press box, and it's down the stretch. So the press box is right near the finish line. Well, the starting gate is way down at the far turn, like right when they head for the stretch. And the roar that you will experience, nothing like the roar that goes up when those gates open. It flows down the stretch, and it hits you like a brick. I mean, and I'm a human. I mean, imagine when it affects a young horse. That's a factor. That's a huge factor in this. So pay attention. If you're a late bettor, if you're somebody that waits till the last second, pay attention how they handle the paddock. Are they a little fractious? Are they a little nervous? Pay attention on the walk over. One of the great things about the Kentucky Derby is the walk from the barns. They walk inside the pole, and they go ahead and they walk all the way down to go to the paddock. It's a very prestigious thing. It's a big thing for the trainers and the owners. It's a big thing for the horse, too. So see how he handles that. If they're nuts, that's a good sign he's going to use up a lot of energy. Once he gets to the starting gate, you might want to rule him out.
Well, Forever Young came so close last year to winning the Derby, but even in that narrow defeat, it did serve as notice that, guess what? Japan, as a country going forward, is going to be a major force in horse racing for years to come. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, you've got Meyer Daytona, that Japanese horse that ran in the UAE Derby. You've also got Luxor Cafe, an American. American Pharoah has 2 horses in this race. He sired 2 horses, that being Luxor Cafe and Publisher. Well, Luxor Cafe is that Japanese horse. It's almost as if we don't have this year. Normally we have the Saudi Arabian contingent, the Godolphin, but they've been trying to win the Derby for years and years and years. And they have put a ton of money into their racing program and have not been able to accomplish it. The Japanese are sort of the new, money breed going into the Kentucky Derby. They also have had limited success. I think it's really difficult between the travel and the quarantine. It's tough. I mean, it's almost as if American horses have an unfair advantage as opposed to foreign horses. Same with horses that are from France and Ireland. We've had those horses too, and they've struggled in the Kentucky Derby for whatever reason. Whether it's racing the opposite direction. Remember, they race the opposite direction. They race counterclockwise in America and clockwise everywhere else. So it's bizarre. So now you're in one race that all of a sudden you're running the opposite direction. That may throw them off a little bit. It's not for, but I tell you what, like you said, it's not for a lack of trying. I mean, the Japanese have put a ton of money. Look, when Fusaiki Pegasus won the Kentucky Derby, he was not sired in the United States. He was sired in Japan. So that's a pretty good stock with which to go ahead and be part of if you're a breeding program in Japan.
Hey, we are winding down our time with Peter Brown. We've talked a lot about the horses and expectation, but when it comes to the Kentucky Derby, what separates a good jockey from a great one on race day? What are some of those intangible qualities that define an elite performance?
Well, knowing how to stay out of trouble. That's the number one thing. If you'll hear it, I'm sure, again today, no matter who wins, you'll hear he had a perfect trip. That's a very huge thing in the Kentucky Derby, the ability. And it doesn't mean you have to be a great jockey. I mean, there are great jockeys. Erod Ortiz, who's a tremendous jockey, about as good as they get, has not won a Kentucky Derby. It's like 0 for 14. Even great trainers have not won the Kentucky Derby. It's a lot about luck. It's a lot about what kind of bump your horse is making at this particular time. But jockeys are important. For instance, now that we've had a scratch in Rodriguez, and now we have Baeza, the 21st horse, the also eligible, is now in the 20-horse field. Flavien Prat, who's a very, very famous and legendary European jockey, jumped off Iacos and jumped on Baeza. So he obviously figures that Baeza has a better chance, and he knows a little bit more about that horse. Knowing your horse, having ridden him in trial in the Derby preps, knowing the conditions, being in big fields, keeping your horse out of trouble is huge. And also knowing when to move your horse. You've got to move your horse at the right time. Because like I said, this stretch is longer than any stretch at any track in the United States. So you're going to run into issues where you think you've got it won, and you've still got another quarter of a mile to go or another 16th of a mile to go. You could have used your horse and be in big trouble.
Well, you bring up a great point, because the connection between the horse and the jockey is so critical. So how do the best jockeys develop trust communication with their horse ahead of a major race like the Kentucky Derby?
Well, a lot of times they ride them in Derby preps. Early on, maybe not the first race or even the second race, depending on how many they do. They're just feeling out whether or not they're good enough to be Derby horses.
Okay.
Once they figure out they're Derby horses, then the trainer says, okay, who can I get? That's the style of who rides the style of my horse. Because jockeys have styles too. Some guys like to be on the lead. Some guys like to be great come from behind horses, jockeys. So, that's a big issue. So you take that into consideration. How does the jockey fit my horse? Does he ride like my horse runs? When they get that, they then go to the agent and they say, well, we've got a Derby possibility. Come check out our horse. And they'll watch him work in the morning, and then they'll say, okay, well, I think I can get this horse over the finish line. So jockey style and jockey, connection to the horse in the Derby preps is very important. Also, too, on the opposite side, the trainer could say, look, I used you in the Derby preps and you stink. You're terrible. So you know what? I'm going to go a different route and decide, you know what? You're not my guy. And now you've got to find a ride if you're a jockey.
The Kentucky Derby never fails to deliver. It is more than a race. It's a celebration of legacy and possibility. Big thank you to Peter Brown, media personality, professional handicapper, for dropping by. Thank you, and enjoy the race.
Absolutely. Fastest 2 minutes in sports.
That's right. Stick around. Much more coming your way right here on the Big E Sports Show. Join us online on social media at eRadio Sports, and we will be right back.